So you want to watch DANMACHI season 2, or is it wrong to pick up a girl in the dungeon season 2? But you haven't watched season 1 and you want to know a little bit about it to see if it's worth your time. Well, today I'll be explaining a little bit about it and just telling you a little bit of the backstory so you can try to hop into it and see if it's your taste. I will be your host, AMG here. What's up, my peoples? So let's go on and embark on this adventure. So DANMACHI was made by Fujino Omori. He is the creator and the mangaka for DANMACHI, which I'm going to be using that name because the light novel name is way too long, as you guys know. A lot of light novel stories titles are long as hell. So anyway, moving on. DANMACHI is a fantasy slice of life kind of battle shonen adventure hero kind of story. Even has some shoujo kind of elements to it as well. The main character's name is Bell Crenell. He's going to be up here in the corner. He's a white-haired kid. He doesn't really seem like he's a adventure because he's kind of a cutesy, innocent, like very, kind of weak-looking fellow. But he has one dream, and that is to be a hero. Now, he is part of the Hestia Familia. Now, Hestia is a goddess, but she's not one of the most powerful goddesses. She is more along the lines of kind of a weaker one, and the only person in her Familia is Bell Crenell. Now, Familia, that is the group of people that join the gods and goddesses as their children. Now, they're not birthed by them. They're just people who join their familia. So there are different gods. There's not just, say, Greek or Roman gods. They are Japanese gods. There's Chinese gods. There's Hindu gods. There's every god you can think of is in this story. Now, do you get to see all those gods? No. But you get to see bits and pieces of them. So if you guys are into any kind of mythology at all, or ancient history, you might get references to those people in this story. Now, it's kind of set up like an RPG kind of game. So you get power-ups. So you start at level 1 like everybody else, but you go into a place called a dungeon. Now, the dungeon has all kinds of monsters. So you got minotaurs, you got slime monsters, you got ogres, you got, bunny rabbits, everything. Werewolves, direwolves, everything you can think of from any fantasy story that you've heard of before is probably in this story. You even have Goliaths and like big giants that look like titans. But you will be fighting those monsters in this story. This story, as long as you power up, then you will get more levels. Then you'll get special abilities, or even have special moves. So for instance, Bell, he uses a knife as his main weapon. Now, most adventurers get magic or anything like that, and in this story there are different types of humans and different kinds of species, period. So there's humans. Then you have half-breed humans who can be mixed with like fairies, elves, or like anthropomorphic like animals. So you have like prunes, you have like ogres, you have elves, you have dwarfs, you have all kinds of just different animals in here that you can fight with, or it could be part of your party, and they all have their individual personalities. So it's not like in other kind of shows where people get transferred to parallel worlds where they speak different languages. They all speak the same language. Now, as I was talking about the gods were heavenly beings that lived up in the upper realm. Well, they got tired of living there because it was boring, so they came down to the lower realm with all the regular humans and every other species, and they lived among us. Well, these gods don't necessarily have powers anymore. They cannot use their heavenly powers because it's illegal. So at this point, they're pretty much all just regular humans. Now, they have some heavenly powers because they're able to give blessings to their children and their familia, but it's not really any attack power that they can use against other people. So they have to have their children or familia to protect them. Well, as you go through going through the dungeon, there's certain levels to it. So I guess you could say from one level 1 to level 5, you have to be level 1 for that. Then it goes lower once you get, a higher level. So level 2, you go from like 6 all the way to like 11 and such like that. You go lower and lower the more powerful you get, or even just the more techniques you have. So they don't really explain what kind of level base they have for you to go up and down. Maybe they do in the manga, but in the anime series, they have not done that yet. So it's not really, oh, you have to be level 1 to go down to level 10 or something like that. It just depends on your skill set and how powerful you are. Even in this story, you have subplots, like you have goddesses backstabbing goddesses, or people trying to steal people's children from other familias, or people just creating, massive catastrophes and wiping out whole people just because they feel like the gods are not the people they want to follow. It is an amazing story. It even has like a kind of a soundtrack akin to like Zelda. If you kind of like that kind of music that's kind of, I don't know how to explain it, kind of RuneScape-ish, like if that's a word, but it has some kind of like old-timey, village adventure feel to it. And they're even akin to like RPG games. So your power-ups are the same way. So you get special skills, you get special swords, you have special attack names, you have special magic names. You even have some of the spellcasters, they actually have to say full, spells to have their, spell work it properly. Or they have concurrent spellcasting, which is they can block and fight while still saying the attack, so it won't break the attack spell in the middle of their casting. So they have all this kind of stuff in this story. They even have waifus. Now, let's get into waifus. One of the main waifus of this story, her name is Eyes. She is called the Sword Princess because she is the second most powerful sword fighter in the city that they live in, where the whole story is taking place. She is part of the Loki familia, one of the top most powerful familia in all of the city. So she is pretty much kind of the love interest for Belle Cornell, or what Belle is trying to get powerful enough to reach her, so he would be able to tell her how he feels, pretty much. But she is so powerful, and she's kind of, distant from the world because she has her own backstory, which is called Sword Oratoria, which is going concurrently, like going at the same time as Belle's story of the original DANMACHI. So you'll see, like, there's parts where a Minotaur will come up and attack Belle. And in Soratoria, which is Eyes' backstory, you'll see this is the reason why this specific Minotaur got up to this level in the first place, which was too low for him to be at. So you see all this, and it explains stuff that happens in the original DANMACHI. You're like, oh, this is why this happened. This is why this person acted like this. It's all that information. They even have a movie that didn't really get as much fame as it should have, but DANMACHI doesn't really get that much attention in the first place, but it really should. So guys, if you like Greek mythology, you like any mythology at all, you like adventure stories, you like RPG games, if you like just anything of that sort, and it's kind of like an isekai except without the isekai element. Like, no one gets dropped into this world, they were just all already here. So it's kind of the same thing. And warning, this show is rated MA. It has a lot of gore in it. It's not as bad as something like High School of the Dead or Parasites or anything like that, but you see blood, you see monsters get cut in half. You don't really see the humans die, but you see people get beat up. So if you go to watch this with your children, and then you come back to my channel and it's like, hey, you suggested this, why didn't you tell me all this killing was in here? Hey, I told you, don't blame that on me. But anyway, and I forgot to tell you, more waifus. They have ebony waifus, man. Oh. That is a surprise. They don't really have ebony waifus in most stories like this. So that is a big plot point for me, because your boy is brown skin. But anyway, guys, you should definitely watch this. Season 2 comes out July 12th. So go watch season 1 if you want to and try to catch up in that little amount of time. You can binge it. You can find it on VRV, Crunchyroll, or even Amazon Prime. So like the video if you like the video. Comment down below if you have anything you want to say. And subscribe to me, yeah boy, AMG. And remember, anime, manga, gaming is all that. And I'm out, people. Peace.
For 30 minutes, don't touch that dial. Don't interrupt right now. Tell mama fall back, cause another all that coming up right now.